I guess I'll just do the intro. Welcome back, folks, to another episode of the Lone Wolf Howlcast, howling out for logic and reason in a world that's still filled with madness and just completely utter irrational people. We decided to take another sidestep again this week, seeing as the Justice League Snyder Cut just got released on Thursday on HBO Max, and I finally found some time and watched it, and I think we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, man. Looks like I was completely wrong. The reviews have been absolutely stellar for it.
Right, now there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, it sucks compared to the other one, blah, 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 or just for some unknown reason feel that they need to not like it because it's a Zack Snyder film. Never mind the fact that he put out this little sleeper unknown film called Watchmen a few years ago that was tops in the box office and top reviews and everything when it came out. So, movie is long, I will tell you that, and also, folks, this is going to be chock full of spoilers. Chock full of spoilers. So in case nobody got it yet, from this point on, if you're still with us, expect spoilers. We're not going to say it again. Expect there to be spoilers nonstop from this point forward, as it is still a hot take, hot off the press, whatever the kids are saying these days, Terrell.
I mean, do we need a spoiler alert? Because is it a completely different story?
Yeah. Oh, first 5 minutes, it's a different movie. First 5 minutes, you're like, this isn't like I remember the other one at all. Oh, it's a whole new take.
So it actually requires a spoiler alert. It's not just a facelift with some few more scenes in it.
There's I think there's a couple reused scenes that felt familiar, but it feels like they still did something different. Like, okay, spoiler alert, right? So the final fight is an hour long, or it might be like 53 minutes. Let's round it up and call it an hour long. And in the original one, where Batman is driving his Batmobile of the day down that long avenue and shooting down the parademons as he's trying to be the big distraction so that everybody else can get in and take care of Steppenwolf, it looked like it was a different Batmobile, but otherwise that the entire scene was the same. If that makes any sense.
So a full okay, so even if you watch the Joss Whedon cut, let's call it the Joss Whedon from here on in. The
Yeah, we
Whedon
can just
cut.
even shorten that to the Whedon cut.
Yeah.
Because we're calling this the Snyder cut, right? So we can
Yeah.
just shorten it.
Again, we're not being specific with spoilers quite yet, but just talking about the movie in general. Does the Whedon cut make sense, or like it doesn't even make sense anymore?
To tell you the truth, man, after watching the Snyder cut, I don't even remember much about the Whedon cut. There's so much exposition in the Snyder cut that if you're not big on DC Comics, like I'm a huge Marvel guy, and yeah, of course, obviously, I know who the top tier heroes and stuff and bad guys are in DC, but I don't know their storylines in depth like I would in Marvel. The exposition in this fills in a lot of those gaps, even for just a casual observer. It doesn't give you these deep dive like we don't. Everybody knows Batman's story. You don't need to see his parents get wiped out again outside the theater. Everybody knows that, but maybe you don't know Cyborg's background too much, and they fill that in for you. So they fill you in. They don't fill you in on the Flash. It seems like they stuck with the Flash's background from the CW show. It's weird. So it's a mixed bag because you can rely on the background, the origin stories from the CW shows, and the old tried and true origin story of Batman. They stick with the origin story of Wonder Woman, Diana. So
No,
I think they retread. I think they
no.
retread Aquaman a little bit.
Well, here's the weird part, though, and it goes back to the length of the movie. The Whedon cut was like I think 2 hours long. I'm gonna check while we talk. So it wasn't like it was a short movie, like by any means. Like I remember like the original being quite long. So is it just a matter of like one director having more time than the other, or is there something fundamentally different about how they said the stories?
Well, as I said before, I don't entirely remember the Whedon cut because it's now been replaced in my head by the Snyder cut. Yes, it is long. Oddly, sitting down watching it, it didn't feel like 4 hours. It feels like that time is used well and filled with story instead of just filler. Like, it's not filled with the sense of making it just for the sake of making it look different from the other movie. It's not like that. Like, it feels organic, like that space should be there and that it should be used.
So that's one thing that you might differ from most of the reviewers and people who've seen it. Like everyone I've talked to and reviews I've read, they've all said that it felt 4 hours. That it was a marathon. It wasn't they didn't, most people didn't get caught up in it so much that they like lost track of time.
Well, it was weird for me because I didn't watch it just to watch it. I sat down with a notepad and I was pausing and I was, taking notes throughout it. So it was actually longer for me. Like, I think all total I was probably close to 4 hours and 45 minutes once I was, done taking notes. So it was longer for me, and it still felt like a good storytelling without fluff and filler. It's really hard to describe it, really, unless you've sat down and watched it.
So we're tackling the issue of length like head on now because we don't want to talk about it later because I think length is going to be the number one reason people choose not to see it. If they don't see it, it's going to be because who wants to sit down for a 4 hour version of a dumb movie they didn't like in the first place? Like, you know what I mean? Like, the first movie had a really bad impression. It was really dumb. It felt really like try hard, trying to be.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's this craziest thing. DC Warner Brothers literally brought in the guy who made Avengers.
It's funny because it feels like an Avengers movie. Like, it reads like an Avengers movie, except instead of the, like, say, Endgame, right? Avengers Endgame, where you just know the good guys are going to win. You just know they're going to win, even though it's a long, drawn-out special effects bonanza. Pretty much 90% of the movies, the heroes are in front of green screens, and, here's the SJW love, just to make sure, because no woman stands alone. And they all make sure they take off their helmets in the middle of combat, which is the smartest thing you can do to make sure you know which heroine is which. There's none of that crap. There is no SJW narrative in the Snyder Cut, and it reads like an underdog movie. Like, you really get the sense that maybe the good guys aren't going to make it in this one. And this is where the spoilers come in, my friend. Spoiler alert, Tiral. I'm going to be ruining this for you too, man. Spoiler alerts. Spoiler alerts. Too bad. You ready?
Ready.
All right. There's a very, very confusing scene switch in the epilogue. Also, the movie's broken out into 5 parts, and then there's an epilogue. So you get like your Act 1 or Part 1 through Part 5, and then there's an epilogue. The end of the movie, heroes save the day, and then the epilogue kicks in, and all of a sudden, the heroes are in some post-apocalyptic Mad Max setting. And you're like, what the hell just happened? And you find out through the dialogue, which is a completely weird setup. You got like 50s noir Batman in the overcoat. You still have Diana. You still have Arthur Curry, Arthur Curry, right? Aquaman.
Curry.
You've got Deathblow or Deathstroke. Can't remember his guy. The DC version that Marvel ripped off for Deadpool.
I don't think that's Deathstroke, is it?
I'm gonna have to look it up.
The Deathstroke is just a really good assassin, and Deadpool can't die.
Right, but his name is. But the DC guy who was the original, his name is Slade Wilson, and then Deadpool became Wade Wilson, who was really an assassin, right?
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. You're right.
I think it's Deathblow. It's Deathblow.
Deathstroke. It's not Deathblow, man.
It might be Deathstroke.
Anyways,
it's Deathstroke. You're right. Okay, so it's this ragtag version of 50s noir Batman. Diana's there. Aquaman is there. Deathstroke is there, which he's usually canonically an enemy of Batman. And the Joker is there. And there's a whole lot of wordplay. And something the Joker says, he says along the lines like, you decided to take this upon yourself. And who knows how many alternate realities are out there that you've created because of your actions. So you find out instead of them posting up Earth 2045, everything is bleak. You find out what's happening through the dialogue, and it turns out, they just decided to throw in, this is what could have gone wrong. This is the alternate ending of what could have been if the heroes didn't win. And I thought it was super cool. Super, super cool epilogue. And it was a little confusing at first, but then once the dialogue explained, instead of them having to post it on the screen, for every Murica to figure out what's happening, they do it in the dialogue, which I thought was excellent.
Again, like, is it the fault of the directors or is it the fault of the execs? Like, if you give any director unlimited time, they can
there's no fault here at all. There's no
right.
fault. It's explained well in the dialogue. You just have to wait and listen instead of needing that instant gratification. Nope, you don't get that in this movie. You have to listen.
One of the things that the reviewers, or common thing that people have mentioned, is that it feels like an opera, like very operatic. Would you agree, or do you think that was too much talk?
I don't think I'm qualified to comment on that. Not knowing opera, like I've never, in all my years of watching movies, I still don't understand Act 1, Act 2, Act 3.
I mean, they did the 5-act structure.
He did do 5-act structure. That's posted. That each act has its own title, which is very Shakespearean.
Mm-hmm.
But it's done well and it flows. I think that's what maybe some folks are missing, is that the 4 hours flows together really well.
Here's one thing that I looked at. And again, I'm just being obsessed with time because it's the main reason people are not going to see this movie. Couldn't it have been just broken into like a mini series? Like, if you're going to do 5 hours, why don't you do 4 1-hour episodes?
Well, I felt like I was dragged into it, so I wanted to just keep watching it. Like, I think people may be more pissed. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to backtrack what I just said. Right? It's 4 hours. Who's holding a gun to you saying, hey, sit down for all 4 hours and watch this? Right? You can literally break it up into the 5 acts, watch each act, and come back and watch later.
I'm thinking it from like the business point of view, because it just seems to me like a really simple solution that would get more people watching HBO Max.
But it's your choice, right? They're not forcing it down your throat that you have to watch it. Now that you mention it, Tiral, it's literally broken up into 5-6 pieces technically, if you include the epilogue, right? So you can watch through part 1, watch part 2 tomorrow night, watch part 3 the next night, and so on. Like, it actually is broken into digestible sections, should you choose not to sit down for the whole 4 hours. It's up to you. It's up to the viewer. It's entirely up to the viewer at this point. The viewer's given the choice.
So remember, Netflix did a Martin Scorsese film? That was a gangster film, and it was like 5 hours or something like that. The viewership for that movie is extremely low. And I know, like, what you said is completely applicable, but people who stream movies, by and large, their need for convenience is extremely high. Like, you have to make things as convenient as possible. It doesn't matter if you can pause and if you can come back to it later. It's just a fickle group of people who consume content, and I just wondered why not just do the convenient thing and possibly make. But then again, it might have been like two different. I mean, one is Netflix, one is HBO Max, and HBO Max is really starting to get off the ground, so they don't know any better. Whereas with Netflix, it's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you guys have all the data. You know that this is how people. Like, it's clear as day that this is how people consume your media. So I wonder. I'm just confused why they didn't just break it up and make it chapters. Just make it chapters, and you can see one by one, and they could even release the chapters at one a week to keep the hype going, especially when it's 4 hours. And if you're going 4 hours, you might as well go 5 hours. I mean, at that point, like.
But they fill in the story, like in that 4-hour block.
Yeah.
It feels like they covered all the bases. Like, it doesn't feel like it needs to be longer to give you more info or more eye candy. Like, that 4 hours, yeah, I wholeheartely agree. It was a long single sit, but they give you the entire story. It doesn't feel like it needs to be longer. And again, yeah, I think you might be hitting on something there, is that maybe HBO just didn't know better. That, hey, maybe we should break this down. But then again, the way it's edited, they give the audience the choice. Like you can watch part one, and then you know when part one's over because part two flashes up on the screen. So you can get up and walk away and go do something else and then come back to it.
We're just so incredibly lazy.
Yeah.
Like just in like if you ever bet on people doing the thing that requires the minimal effort, you're gonna be disappointed. But this leads into, I think, my biggest question. And I think after this there's no questions about time anymore for me. Is this a story worth 4 hours? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, did this movie have a story to tell that justifies, one, it being there, and two, the time? Because the Whedon cut absolutely did not justify its 2 hours. Like it was just a waste of time, waste of money. Try hard Avengers wannabe, please like us like you like Marvel. Like that's what it screamed. What do you think? Is this movie something that needs to exist? Does it have a story to tell? And is
Oh
that
yeah,
story justified?
it does a better job. What was the one before Avengers Endgame? What was the one prior to that?
Batman versus Superman?
No, no, no. The Avengers movie
Oh,
before Endgame was
Age of
Infinity
Ultron.
War. No, it was like Infinity War or something like that,
Oh,
right?
Infinity War. Yeah, so it was Infinity War, then Endgame, and before that, the middle one was Age of Ultron, and then there was the first one, which is Avengers.
Yeah, so this is like Infinity War and Endgame smashed into one, and it's the entire story arc. And you really don't even need to see Dawn of Justice, which is the prequel movie to the Whedon cut. So you don't even really need to see that because the Snyder cut organically fills in a lot of what happened there too. You know, it opens up with like 30 seconds of when Superman gets his ass kicked by Doomsday.
Okay, so in your opinion, it's it justifies its existence, and the story that it told it required the 4 hours.
Yes. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. At no point was I like, oh my God, this is taking forever. Why isn't it over yet? You know, I never felt like that while I was watching it. And that was with breaking up the immersion by pausing it, jotting down notes, you know, making sure I was on the right minute count. It was good.
Quite a few people who are not comic book fans, they told me that they tapped out, like or their wives tapped out, or their people who are not like so hardcore into comic book movies. Again, four quadrant that the Whedon cut tried to be. Those people like did say that like they tapped out, or they just let the movie go and they came back to it later. So it was. I wonder how much of you and I being really big comic book nerds and whatnot changed the way we saw it, because we were willing to sit through and listen and pay attention and just get into it versus regular average Joe and Mary, like it
Well,
could.
as you know, and I'm sure all of our followers have picked up on, I'm a pretty serious, cynical pessimist. So I expected it to suck. I went into it with the expectation of this is going to fall on its face and it was going to be a waste of time. And I was like, but it's a hot topic right now. I wanted to check it out, see what all the talk was about, and I was pleasantly surprised. So again, I went in expecting this to be horrible. Not only did it not suck, it was a damn good movie.
I mean, I was on record on that last pod
Yeah, you're like,
where
oh, it's going to be horrible.
yeah, like I'm not a fan of Snyder at all, and he, like for it to be as good, for it to be not suck is a complete surprise to me, and let alone like the rave reviews it's getting by almost all the reviewers and people I know who are big into comic books. So it's a complete surprise. Like this might be his best movie. One thing I've heard over and over again is this movie and the Whedon cut should be taught in film school, and because to show the power of editing, like people are calling it a masterpiece, and then when you compare it to the Whedon cut, you're like, oh my god, what is this? Like, what happened? And the business of movie making is really crazy because Warner Brothers, you can't like shit on them too hard because Zack Snyder, who hasn't been exactly making blockbusters since 300.
Well, he also did
Oh
Watchmen.
no, he didn't do 300. I'm sorry. Yeah.
He didn't do 300. He did Watchmen, which was,
which was not a
Insanely
hit.
awesome. What?
It was not a hit.
I must have done some Mandela effect slippage somewhere because in my world it was awesome.
No, I didn't say it wasn't awesome or not. I'm saying it was from a fiscal point of view. Let's say you and I are Warner Brothers, execs, right? And Zack Snyder, who already we picked him to be our director, and we already know that he hasn't had a hit recently, and like he comes to us with a movie that's one operatic, two well over 2 hours, and then we're like, wait, what's going on? This is a comic book movie. It's not hitting all four quadrants. It's super long. Like we're very confused the direction you're going.
Are you ready for this? You ready for this? You're gonna love these comparisons, Thrall. Titanic was 4 hours long. Dances with Wolves was 4 hours long, right? And they were spectacular movies. This is a superhero movie that pulls off the 4 hour length. I can't stress enough that you're given the option to watch it in chunks. They literally give you the option to watch it in chunks. And if you go in looking at it, so I didn't even think it was going to be an underdog movie. I thought it was going to be, look how awesome these heroes are, like the Whedon cut. Right? This is the vehicle to show you how just cool our heroes are. Please watch us. No, it ended up being an underdog movie. It's also R-rated. The only other superhero movie out there that's R-rated right now is Deadpool. Batman's dropping F-bombs.
It wasn't DC movies almost always R-rated, except for like when they try to do the whole Marvel thing. Like most of the Batman movies are R-rated, right?
Well, that's the newer ones. I mean, if you go back to OG Batman, Michael Keaton, right? I think maybe PG-13 just for the violence.
Okay, yeah.
The newer ones, the Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, I think those might have been R because they were really violent.
What was the color tone? That was some in the internet that made a comment that it all looked very washed out. What did you think of the colors and the visuals?
Oh, it was so dark. It was all in sepia. Yeah, look at the Christian Bale, Heath Ledger Batman movies. So a friend of ours just made us watch a movie that he insisted was one of the best sleeper movies of ever, called Terminal, because of the usage of color. And even Watchmen, even Snyder does that in Watchmen with the use of color.
The Whedon cut was really not good looking, and the CG looked quite cheap, especially Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf looked like a joke, and they put in a lot of money to fix that.
Yeah, they upped their game on this. They redid Steppenwolf's armor instead of it being like banded, like you know how Colossus is like banded metal, right? That's how Steppenwolf looked in the first one. In this one, his armor's made out of these metal spikes, and it's like his skin, like it's part of him.
If we were the execs of Warner Brothers, we would be like really concerned. We like bringing in Joss Whedon, who were literally made the first two Avengers movies. It makes complete sense because like you're gonna give us an operatic 4 hour-ish or 3.5 hour-ish movie, and it's like it's gonna cost a ton, and you need 50 something million dollars more and whatnot. Like it's a tall ask. You know what I mean? Like I'm not justifying Warner Brothers going for Joss Whedon. I'm just saying, like, from a Hollywood exec point of view, it's not the craziest thing to do.
Well, as I said before, being the pessimistic cynic or the cynical pessimist that I am, and that I'm sure our fans know that I am, I went into it expecting it to suck. It was actually engrossing, very engrossing. And I've already said it a bunch, but I'll say it again. They give you the option to watch it in chunks. It's broken into 5 parts, and then there's an epilogue, and they tell you when. So you can stop for an hour, you can watch 2 hours, come back later. They give you the option. So now that I've beaten that like a dead parademon, let's get into it a little bit. So once again, folks, more spoiler alerts. That's it. You're not getting any more warnings. I'm even going to post it up as probably the video thumbnail, just so you're aware that there's going to be it's going to be spoilerific. The aspect ratio is a little weird. I don't know why Snyder intended it to be 4:3. So it's very weird watching something in a modern era where you have the 2 black vertical bars on both sides of the picture.
Yeah, what was that all about? Like
That I don't know. I tried looking it up, and it was just as all I really found was as the director intended.
Is I mean, I'm trying to figure out like what could be the justification. Would it be he wanted it to look like we were watching on an SD TV, like his childhood? Was it something like to save money? Because independent directors or artists, they do that to save on money. Like if they go on film, it's so much cheaper to get older stock film that people are just trying to get rid of than. But that's not the case here.
Yeah, obviously not with the Mega Millions budget for this. I don't know. I don't know why it was shot in 4:3. That was a little weird, but after a while, after you're into it, it kind of fades. Because it's weird because the picture itself is high def. So it's high def in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
So it's again, it's very odd. I just went on Wikipedia and I looked at. I'm just trying to make sure that I got my story straight about Zack Snyder not having a hit in a long, long time. So let's say a hit is something that makes 3 times more than its budget because advertising and marketing costs and things like that.
Right.
The Justice League was 300 million budget and it made 657.9 million. So that was not a hit. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, even with Rotten Tomatoes of 29%, out of a budget of 250 million, made 874 million, which is actually pretty damn good.
That's like almost 4 times.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that it's well over 3. So that was a hit. So I was wrong there. Man of Steel was 225 million and it made 668. So
almost 3 times.
Almost 3 times. Close enough. Close enough where we were like, all right, Sucker Punch out of 82 million made 89.8 million. So that was not a hit. That was
a bomb.
That's a
bomb. I thoroughly
yeah.
enjoyed that movie. I did really enjoy that movie.
I made the horrible mistake of taking a girl out on a first date to that movie.
You didn't get a second date out of that one.
I actually did, and that should have been the red. That should have been the red flag. It absolutely should have been the red flag. Legend of Guardians was 80 million budget, made 140, so that was not a hit. It wasn't a huge bomb, but it was not a hit. Watchmen, I was dead right though. Out of 130 million, it made 185.
Really?
So that means it lost money.
That's weird because that was in theaters for a while, and HBO did a sequel spin-off series that's already, I think, had 2 seasons.
Yeah, and that was not a hit either.
The spin-off series?
Yeah,
that's a different Howlcast then, because that's an amazing show.
Yeah, I think we should talk about it because critically it's amazing. But did people watch? Nope, people didn't watch it.
The story was fantastic. But anyway, we got a 4-hour movie and we're going to try and review that in an hour or less.
If you're an exec, you're a Hollywood exec, and you're like, okay, is this going to be a 300 where he turned 65 million into 456? Or is this going to be Watchmen where he spent 130 and he's going to give us 185 back? You look at what he was saying and doing, it's looking like it's going to be another Watchmen. So, I think it makes sense that they push the brakes and be like, oh, whoa. Because Justice League, the Whedon cut, was a $300 million movie that did not look like it was $300 million. That looked budget. It looked like the CG was bad. The storyline was bad. The acting was bad. I get why Warner Brothers did what they did. And now looking back, it looks like they made a huge mistake.
Well, you need to watch this, I think. So I challenge you to watch it in chunks because you can. So I'm going to throw down the gauntlet for that I challenge you to watch it. Try and compartmentalize what I'm going to say today. Compartmentalize my view on it, that it's an underdog movie. And let's jump into the rest of this. So the aspect ratio is a big question mark. Why the hell did they do that, right? I did not have an issue with the color choice of things being dark and bleak and somewhat sepia toned. There is a lot of daylight shots where there's no issues with the colors at all, and it sets the tone. Like, right, if it was all rainbows and unicorn farts, it'd be a different movie. this is, the heroes are in deep crap. The world is on the line. Really, it's more than the world. We'll get to that. And color sets the tone. Like, you can't, color's part of the movie. You can't not do that. So yes,
That's the feel of the movie, the color, the tone, feel,
right.
taste. Yeah.
Like, there's even a whole genre. It's called noir that are set like that. Like, look at it's not a Snyder film, but like Dark City, right? The entire movie's almost in darkness, with like backlighting of blue light, stuff like that, and it sets the tone. So the complaints about the color don't really make any sense because it's literally helping set the tone of what you watch.
So that you're saying the tone and the color scheme are in alignment with the story?
Oh yeah.
Then
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any complaints then, unless it's badly done. Like, do things look washed out?
There's a few times where I was like, okay, well, this seems a little bit like the contrast was off.
Oh,
Like when your contrast is cranked a little too far and things are kind of,
too
there's like
much.
that sheen of like milky white paint over
Mm-hmm,
everything.
mm-hmm,
There
mm-hmm.
was a couple scenes like that, but it didn't spoil it for me. It didn't pull me out of it, and I was like, oh, that's horrible usage of contrast. This movie gets 1 star. It wasn't anything like that at all. Whereas, I'm sure we're both seeing on social media, people are like that. But again, I think it's that need for instant gratification. Like I said, I went into it expecting it to suck, and it turns out it's awesome.
Okay, so
So,
all right, so we covered the way it looks.
yeah,
Steppenwolf's CGI looks significantly better. Like, if they put a good chunk of that 70 extra million dollars into the movie just for him, I
yeah,
get it. It looks like the Whedon cut looked so budget and so like unintimidating, and now Steppenwolf is like the acting looked better. The character was better. Everything was better when it comes to the villain.
yeah. Oh man, they upgraded Darkseid or Darkseid, however you want to say it. They upgraded. They blew a lot. Even though he's not in it a lot, they blew a lot of that budget on him, and he looks better than Thanos. Actually, they did a superior job on Darkseid. He looked more concrete and part of the reality than Thanos did in Avengers, and he looks downright scary and menacing, like the stuff of nightmares almost.
That's a huge improvement because in the Whedon cut, the villain was an afterthought. Like, Steppenwolf was like, you're saying that this movie is a underdog story. The first movie was like Steppenwolf looked like lame and stupid CGI battle at the end, and like, this is not a threat. Like, why do they have to get together? Nothing makes sense.
Well, in this one, I think wasn't it? I'm not looking at Wikipedia or IMDb right now, but wasn't Liam Neeson the voice of Steppenwolf the
I'll
first time
check. Well,
around?
I'll check while you talk. I'll look that up.
I'm gonna look it up because I want to do a comparison here. Sorry for the keystrokes.
But one of the things with Josh Whedon is, and I'm not like that familiar with all his movies, but for sure in the Avengers movies, the villain, you never felt like they were gonna win. You never did. Like, in Avengers, the first one, which I love, were you really scared of the aliens coming down? Not really. Were you scared of Loki winning? Not really.
Oh, you know what? I gotta interject, Taral. This is something you just jogged it for me, right? All of the Marvel movies are pretty much cartoon violence. People
Very
get
much so.
blasted with fireballs. They get blasted with solid shot weapons. Gamma rays, energy weapons. There's not a mark on the person. There's no blast. The uniform's not ripped up. There's no blood. So, a couple of the heroes actually take some hits in this. Their uniforms are getting ripped up. Flash, I think, gets hit twice, and like he's bleeding, and like he's reacting to getting hit. Instead of it just being like, oh, I just blasted you with my Iron Man hand blasters, and they just knock you around a little bit. That little guy over there, he's just sleeping. Like, oh my God, I just forgot his name. The guy who did the Batman parodies. I'm gonna have to look it up real quick.
He himself killed Batman. Those parodies were so.
Pete Holmes.
Pete
Pete
Holmes.
Holmes.
Pete Holmes parodies, man. I can't believe no one watched the show and he got kicked off air. But
Especially like the video game Red Tape shorts. But anyway, that's
oh
off topic.
yes,
So in this one, like weapons are an actual threat in this. Unlike pretty much anything in Marvel, weapons are a real threat in this. Like the enemy, even just the parademons, which are like the foot soldiers of Steppenwolf and Darkseid and friends. They have what look like some sort of like particle laser gun or something like that, where it's shooting a beam of something. And it's not like you just get knocked over or you get knocked on your ass and stand back up. Like in almost all of the Avengers movies, the weapons are impotent until it comes down to fisticuffs. Like I said with Iron Man's hand blasters, right? Like those should be blasting holes through people, and they just get knocked on their ass. Or
they just push you back. That's all they do. They just push
or like
you
Cap
back.
nails somebody with his super ultra special made up metal shield that should be cutting heads off. You know,
Like
and it just
magically returns like a boomerang.
and it just knocks him around a little bit. In this one, they have a very quick shot of Darkseid's, and I knew the name of his eye beams. It's called like Chaos Ray or something like that, and it's a tracking eye beam, like how Superman has his eye lasers or heat vision, but it's line of sight. Darkseid doesn't need to be looking at you, and he can still hit you with this. And there's a flashback scene, like an ancient history scene, of when the Atlanteans were trying to defend against Darkseid's forces, and he's busy gutting one guy, and like there's blood everywhere in the water, and there's a guy trying to get Darkseid from the back, and he just lets off with his eye beams, and like they track around behind him, and they do what they do in the comic books where they're hitting like 90-degree and 45-degree angles and just like incinerate this guy. So that definitely contributed to the R, because this is violent. It's not cartoon violence like the Marvel movies. It is really violent. So a thumbs up for that. It is really a hard R. I don't think this is something you can watch with your kids. It's really a hard R. They also gave some homage to the Death of Superman comics that came out way back when, right? Doomsday, the MacGuffin of the era, kicks the crap out of Superman and kills him. And Superman comes back and has no idea who he is. That was pretty cool. I think there was even...
Regardless of whatever rating it is, kids are going to watch this. And
yeah, I know, but folks, assuming they're all in that 18 to 45 demographic, don't watch it with your kids. Definitely not a recommend to watch it with your kids. I think there was even in the epilogue, because Martian Manhunter is an Easter egg in this. And I should have backtracked and watched the scene a few more times. He shows up at Bruce Wayne's private beachfront estate unannounced. And for a heartbeat, as the camera's doing kind of that zoom in swirl on like, who is this person? He looks like Steel. Not Man of Steel, not Superman, folks, but if you go way back to the Death of Superman era, the comic books, some guy takes on the mantle of Steel and he builds himself a cybernetic suit and calls himself Steel. And for a heartbeat in this scene, Martian Manhunter looks like that. So I thought that was a pretty cool Easter egg throwback deep dive for the fans. And this doesn't, you know what? That's another thing too. This doesn't feel like fan service like the Whedon cut. This is gritty. It's gritty. Like I said, it's an underdog movie.
that fan service didn't land either. Like, it felt shitty. Like, it was not like, oh, it didn't make anyone do the claps, like, oh my God, I'm so happy, I know that, No, the Whedon cut fan service was like, ugh.
They actually did a better job with Wonder Woman on this too in the post-production. She's a lot more effective. Like, she gets bullet time now, which I thought was pretty cool. So there's a scene where these guys are taking over a bank, and it's a pretty high-end robbery. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. And this one dude starts unloading on the hostages with some sort of automatic weapon. And she goes into bullet time, which I thought was cool. Instead of her just standing there like, ta-ting, 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 like she's actually diving in to block the bullets to get in the way fast enough and stuff. Like, it's not like the bad guys are just conveniently aiming center mass just at her. Like, she goes bullet time to make sure she blocks all the bullets no matter where they're aimed, which I thought was pretty sick. There is one thing that bothered me. There's they do like the opening. I think part one is sort of like a flashback of what Darkseid is trying to do with the mother boxes, and he did attack Earth once way back in the mythical era of when Zeus walked the Earth and stuff like that. Artemis, she walked the Earth at the time, and then they flash forward to Steppenwolf. By the way, Steppenwolf, you actually feel a little bad for the guy. You don't know why, but his is like almost a redemption story. Like, he wronged Darkseid, or Darkseid, I'm going to go with Darkseid just to keep it consistent.
Okay.
There's some sort of unknown backstory between Steppenwolf and Darkseid where Steppenwolf had failed or wronged or betrayed Darkseid. And this is almost like Steppenwolf's redemption story, which I thought was a cool take as well. But he shows up on the island of Amazons. I think it's Thermoscria or Thermoscria.
Right.
I'm going to butcher that, and people are going to make fun of me for that in the comments. But they have this temple, this huge stone temple built up around the mother box that they captured in the mythical era. And Steppenwolf shows up at the temple. And what's cool is they're using boom tubes in this too. So he just boom tubes into the temple and he starts wrecking shop. Queen, whatever her name is, I was going to go with Amidala, but that's Star Wars. Queen Amazon, she has this temple set up, or this vault. It's really called the Vault, which is a stupid ass name because the vault has a glass ceiling. So I don't know what you're locking in under glass. But they have this almost like these canal locks set up on the main entrance to the vault. And they did some serious casting for the women that are manning the locks because, I guess, or womaning the locks. I don't know. I don't know what they expect from me in the narrative these days, Terrell. But they have these women that look like they were powerlifters, but they're also ripped. But they definitely cast them for their physical prowess. And so these gigantic stone deadfall doors are held up by these tree trunks. And it's 2 women per door, 1 on each tree trunk. And in order to close these freaking stone doors, these deadfall doors, they have to lock themselves in. It's like, wouldn't that have been better designed that you maintain your forces as best you can, that maybe they're on the outside of the tree trunk instead of the inside, so that when they shut the door, they move forward and help the next team, and then they move forward and everybody gets to escape? No, these women get locked inside. So it's like, well, either we're going to suffocate or we're going to starve to death. Sure, I'm signing up for that job. That was sort of a stupid design.
Do you think they were just going for epic and it just kind of fell flat? Like, it was just, it looked in their heads, the idea like, oh my God, they're going to sacrifice themselves to
they're going to sacrifice themselves so the queen can survive and escape. And yeah, you're right. It was really a fall flat moment. And I was like, that was just a really stupid ass design when you're fighting a very, very powerful enemy and you're going to need to retain and sustain as many forces as you can. And that part fell flat, especially when they do the outside shot and it's like, they're calling that the vault, but there's a glass ceiling. It's like, what?
Like, that was not really, magic crystal, not anything.
Yeah, they didn't really comment on it. But really, if that's a gripe, that's really the biggest gripe. There's one more gripe I have after this. That was really, really the biggest gripe I had, is that this place was called the Vault, and it was supremely poorly designed. That I wouldn't have called it a vault at all. I would have called it like an open-air temple or something, had they not specifically said the Vault. The other gripe, and this is where we get into the SJW land, Terrell, you ready?
Ready.
So Amber Heard reprises her role as Mira, and I'd be kind of surprised that they brought her back after the damage she did to Johnny Depp.
I'm still surprised she has a career in Hollywood, and I'm surprised that, like, if you're gonna redo a movie and do hard edits, like, you didn't get rid of her. Like, it's, that whole situation, like, it just seems like at no point was common sense used, especially when the court cases were
against her. She was the abuser. She was the abuser.
Like she. So that's I mean, again, this might be another different episode, but how Hollywood's handled Amber Heard, who's not that pretty. I mean, she's pretty, but she's not like anything special.
They her up in this. They show off her assets pretty well in this one. I will say though, I would think the compromise is she only has 2 lines. Like, she's really just background wallpaper for the most part.
Okay, then yeah, all right. She's not featured.
Right. No, she's definitely not a feature character like she was. Well, she was in Aquaman. That's right. I'm blending Aquaman and Whedon in my head, and that's not the case. Obviously, in Aquaman, she's the queen, the princess. I don't remember what her title is, Aquaman's character. But in this one, she's more or less wallpaper, and I think in the epilogue, she has like 2 lines. But really, those are, out of the 4 hours of movie, right? The vault design and Amber Heard are my only gripes. Actually, no, there's one more complaint, because, well, it wouldn't be a Lone Wolf Howl cast without some complaints, Terrell. Snyder did a weird thing where he did a lot of like these lamenting female vocalist solo act stuff. Like almost every time that Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman and not Diana, she has this weird theme music that's like this soloist female vocals, and like that sounds like she's lamenting something, but it's in a foreign language, or it might even be in like a confab language because you can't understand the words at all. It's like almost every time that she's on screen, it's like, okay, enough with that already. You know, let's do the hero music or the fight music. So that was a little strange use of solo vocals. That was a little bit weird, and it was a little distracting at times.
I don't think Zack Snyder ever really chose good music. I mean, I'm trying to think of a movie where 300, the music he used for 300 was pretty damn good.
That music was the shit.
Yeah. But I don't think any other movie I would say the same.
Yeah. Well, Watchmen had good mood music. No? Throughout? Did I lose you?
I don't know. The Watchmen movie was dour. It was just
yeah, but that was the point.
Yeah,
that was the point, you know?
Yeah, it was dour. I guess then it's effective. Yeah, it was effective if that's the case. The movie could have been done with a PG-13?
No way. No way. That would have done the cartoon violence. That would have been Marvel cartoon violence where I blast you in the face and you stand back up. You know?
Okay, so it's not okay.
It's gritty, it's dark, it's dour, it's noir, it's violent, but it all plays. It all plays really well. So they make it pretty clear. I think they did some. I don't know if they did on location filming, but the make-believe city that they use, where Steppenwolf sets up shop to create his base of operations, it's damn obvious that it's Pripyat. You know, it's the Pripyat nuclear facility that went supernova. I don't know if they 3D modeled the city or if they did any like on location filming. When they finally go there in the film, I'm sure you may have seen it, Tiral. Maybe most of our listeners have. I don't know, but like in the documentary of Pripyat, where it opens up and it's the abandoned playground, you know, with like all the stuff that's been sort of melted and burned and whatever from the radiation. It opens up with that scene. I thought that was really well done. It definitely 100% lets you know where they are.
I'm just wondering, did it really have to be 4 hours long? Like, do we need all that?
Yes. I don't feel, from what I watched and what I saw, and the exposition was required, and it made sense, and it was organic, it fills the 4 hours nicely. And again, right? Can't complain about the 4 hours. They give you the bite-sized chunks to watch, should you choose to do so.
Here's the thing again, though. It's not fair to say, you know what? I've been thinking about it while we were talking. This is not Titanic and this is not Dancing with Wolves. We've already had this movie before to ask. So they already gave like 2-something hours to before and it sucked. To ask people to give another 4 hours of their life to it. That's a huge ask. That's a very, very hard ask. It's not like it was originally 4 hours and, you know, like there's hit movies that were 4 hours. It's that you've given people this product and it sucked and almost everyone felt like it was a waste of their life. And now you're asking them to add 4 more to that. Like that is an incredibly hard ask. And I just don't know if until we get the HBO official numbers of viewership, I'm going to bet that people are like, no thanks. You already took 2 hours of my life. I'm not going to give you 4 more. And so I keep coming back like, is all of this necessary? Because it sounds
well, don't forget,
to me,
it was asked for. The whole reason they made it is that there was a loud fan base that wanted to see this version.
Yeah, but that loud fan base is not 4 quadrants. That loud fan base.
Explain the 4 quadrants for our listeners, just in case.
So 4 quadrants is a marketing aspect, like basically says like everybody. You have young kids, you have older people, you have people with families, you have people who don't have families. Whenever someone says 4 quadrants, that means like McDonald's. It's made for everybody in mind. It's not too spicy. It's not too salty. It's not too healthy. It's not too unhealthy. Like that kind of thing. Yeah, there's a huge fan base, but is that fan base even going to warrant $70 million more put into this movie? Maybe, but probably not, because I feel you've gotten a redo of this movie franchise. So if the let's say Wikipedia is right for now. They put in $300 million on this movie, and then now they put in $70 million now in this movie. Are you going to get over $1 billion from this movie to justify its existence? You know, because 370 times three, like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
900 million,
we need
hopefully more.
we need way more than $1 billion in gross. And are we gonna get that? And I'm guessing no. Like, I don't know if this is gonna justify HBO Max putting in 70 million. Forget Warner Brothers. Let's just say HBO Max, who put up the $70 million in.
And it's free if you have an HBO subscription. So I really don't know how they're making their kickback on this.
I mean, maybe they're gonna have to look at like new accounts, just like Netflix. Like whenever they do an event film, they look at, did this movie add to our base or did it
Yeah.
just flatline? Ever since Game of Thrones, HBO Max has been struggling to get people to sign on. Like,
Well, I have to say, folks listening, Doom Patrol, watch it. Brendan Fraser, MIA for years, since pretty much what, The Mummy? Boom, he's back on the scene and he outperforms Timothy Dalton.
not MIA by choice, but
No, I know. I think we
another.
discussed that in one of the other ones that he got blacklisted by the industry. He comes back. I'm not entirely sure. I don't want to give spoilers to Doom Patrol because that's not what we're doing here. We're talking Snyder Cut. But I'm just going to say it vaguely. For all, don't give any extra details. But I'm not sure if Brendan Fraser is just a voice or if he's in the outfit. But man, every time he's in a scene, he is stealing it, and he's definitely outperforming Timothy Dalton. So watch Doom Patrol, folks. All right, back to. I almost did the hand clap. That would have been dumb.
So, I keep going again. Like there has to be this thing where, is this good enough to ask people to put in 4 more hours of their life, assuming they watched it in the first place? If you've never watched the movie, then this is a must watch. Absolutely. But what if you already put in 2 hours? What if you already
did.
saw?
I did, and for me, the Whedon cut was so forgettable that I kind of didn't really remember in my notes to compare this to that. But already, as I said earlier in this, the first 5 minutes of the Snyder Cut is a brand new movie. Brand new movie, right off the bat. So for me, it erased a lot of the Whedon movie.
I wonder if Warner Brothers is going to decide to keep going.
Well, they drop a lot of, I'm probably going to use bad English here through also, but there's a lot of allusions, other things that have happened. So, for example, modern era, Amazon's on their private island with their beachfront property. They say that so it was almost like a callback to Lord of the Rings, where the Queen Amazon is saying we need to light the beacons, we need to notify the armies of men, and then one of the other Amazons says something. It's been 5,000 years since the beacons were lit. They're not going to know what it means anymore. So I was kind of curious. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I'm proving what an idiot I am. I think the 5,000 years ago is when Steppenwolf and Darkseid, really Darkseid frontlined it in the age of mythology when Zeus was walking the earth. So maybe that's what they meant by 5,000 years ago. So I think I just explained it for myself. I thought it was going to be like a cool little segue to some little piece of lore that I'd look up later. Never mind. I just answered my own question, and now I look like an idiot, Tiral.
No worries.
There's a scene, Diana, Wonder Woman, but her modern day identity is as Diana, and she's in this crypt, and there's ancient Greek written on the walls. And man, this is probably me just being me, and you know me really well, Tiral, but it looks like there's a shout out to the Trilambdas from Revenge of the Nerds.
Right, that's pretty funny.
Because literally, there's this Greek writing on the wall. She's looking at these ancient Greek frescoes that are painted on these walls in this crypt, and it's a litany of Greek writing, and then all of a sudden, there's a break in the writing, and it's lambda, 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 and then more Greek writing. So, I thought that was
cut. That's a deep, deep cut.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, right? I mean, I'm surprised that with the SJW narrative these days that you can even watch Revenge of the Nerds. Hell, I'm shocked as hell that I was able to see Porky's on Showtime the other night.
Well, I mean, Porky's is considered a classic. I think same with
Revenge of the Nerds, right? But
I think there is one part of Revenge of the Nerds like where it's really uncomfortable for me. I think a lot of other people
well,
is
you're looking at it through a modern lens, right? But if you're looking at it through the lens of
even
the era,
no,
and you're
even then it was like what did we just
yeah,
watch?
where he poses as the boyfriend of the cheerleader, and then
Yeah,
he
banging
doesn't
her.
take the mask off, and he starts banging her.
Yeah, that was like uh,
Whatever, she was into it.
that's not a good answer, man, and you're gonna have to edit that out.
Nah, I'm gonna leave it in there. It's all right. It's an old movie. It was a different time period. They end up being boyfriend and girlfriend anyway after the fact, which I guess air quotes here, folks. No camera, right? But air quotes makes it better, I guess.
I mean, yeah, dick too strong, I guess. It's you know, like, she come.
um, I will say this: Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, wastes a lot of clothes. So they put the eye candy in for the women, right? So I guess they went back to Momoa after his other side projects. He's got a SEE on Apple TV. He had The Frontier on Prime, I think, which was colonial era United States. Before it was United States, it was still the colonies. And they must have gone to him and said, "Hey, man, we need you back in fighting fit shape." And he's the eye candy. He out eye candies Henry Cavill in this movie. And here's why: because every time Arthur Curry goes back to dive into the water, what does he do? He takes his shirt off and he throws it on the shore and then jumps in the water. So he blows through a lot of clothing, I guess. But they do like the full hot guy in the surf, shirt comes off, rippling abs, chiseled pectorals, and then he dives into the water every time. So they put
people are not going to complain.
no, they're not. But my complaint is not that it's a lot of male nudity, so to speak, but it's the fact that the dude wastes a lot of clothes. I don't know why he keeps his pants on. Keeps his pants on and jumps in the water. Why not keep your shirt on, man? Product placement was a little weird. Usually, well, I guess in more modern films, they're making it a hell of a lot more obvious now. Like the Coke can gets plopped down right in front of the camera, or the Mountain Dew bottle is right there front and center in the table. You know, in this one, Bruce Wayne, they start out, the scene starts out on his hand holding the razor, which I think it's like a Schick razor, and they start shaving with it. And then he's got some sort of Mercedes-Benz supercar with the gull-wing doors, and it hits like 80 in 0.3 seconds or something. I didn't get to see what model it was, otherwise I would have called that out. Alfred is drinking Talisker Scotch, like when he picks up the bottle. Oh, there's some funny in this.
Okay.
And it's actually done well. So, you know, Batman always meets Commissioner Gordon on a roof. Commissioner Gordon, for some reason, turns his back on Batman whenever he's trying to make a point, and then turns back around and Batman's gone. So that same exact trope happens here, but it's all of the heroes on a rooftop talking to Commissioner Gordon, and Batman's kind of doing a round of intros, and he gives the info dump to Batman and friends, and then for some reason Commissioner Gordon turns his back on him and turns back around, and the Flash is the only one still there, and he's like, "Where the hell did those other guys go?" So I thought it was funny on two levels, because you think the one that would disappear the fastest would be the Flash, right? And instead he's the one just like he doesn't understand the hero shtick at all. You know, the hero mythos of staying mysterious. I thought that was pretty funny. There was something really funny or odd or just strangely shot. It was at the 1 hour, 54 minute and 44 second mark that the entire Justice League is taking the stairs in this building instead of using their various tropes to climb the outside or jump really high or do whatever they can do to get to the top of this building. Nope. It's a scene of them tromping up the stairs, which I thought was humbling, because out of all of them, Batman's, you know, the baseline human, except for the fact that he's got like superior ninja training and he's supposed to be the world's best detective or a super sleuth.
He's got a lot of plot armor. I think Batman, they need to reboot him to be a little bit more than he is. His plot armor. Yeah.
His tech comes into play a lot in this, but it's one scene of the entire Justice League minus Superman, because Superman still hasn't come into the movie yet. And it's an entire scene of him tromping up the stairwell, which I thought was humbling, weird, and kind of funny all at the same time. Okay, this is cool, Tiral. This you want to strap in for. All right? The final fight is not the last 20 minutes of the movie. The final fight is like 53 minutes long, and it's worth it. It is a long, drawn-out, heroes getting their asses kicked type of fight.
You answered my question. I was gonna ask, like, is it worth it? That
Yeah,
was
that
definitely.
hour, I think that's probably where that extra 70 million went into post production. And it's not shitty CGI. It's believable. You feel like you're in it, that you're watching it. It feels near hopeless. The heroes are losing a lot. And a cool thing. So again, we said spoilers at the beginning, so too bad now, folks, if you're still with us. The bad guys win, actually. The bad guys win. The three mother boxes achieve synchronicity, and the Earth pretty much blows up. Now, what happened? I think it was way back in the 80s in Superman 2, I think, and Lois dies in an earthquake. What did that Superman guy, what did he do?
He reversed time.
Oh yeah, he flew so fast. Okay, it was the 80s. Science didn't really count so much, so let's look at it through the lens of the 80s movies. He flew so fast that he reversed the spin of the Earth, and I think that was just at the time their visual of Superman going back in time, right?
Right.
Because usually
Yeah.
more modern stuff, time lapses happen, the clock kind of spins backwards a little bit. I think looking at it now, I think that was the 80s version of he's flying so fast he's going back in time that we're actually watching the Earth unwind the days that have transpired.
Yeah. No
So
one asked questions. Nobody asked
yeah,
questions.
nobody asked science questions back then. So in this one, the Flash does it. The Flash achieves superluminal speed, and he goes back in time, which I thought was pretty cool. That the Flash saves the day instead of Superman saving the day.
So when I saw it, I thought, like, okay, this is the beginning of Crisis of Infinite Earths, when Flash just destroys realities, and that's the reason why you're gonna have so many Spider-Mans. I mean, it's not Spider-Man, Batmans, and
Yeah, because Spider-Man's in the DC universe, right? They're all.
yeah, Spider. I mean, there is a movie coming out where we have Tim Burton's Batman and all the other Batmans coming out. So, like, I kind of think that this is a great way of hand waving all the past movies out that no one liked, and just being like, all right, we're doing something new.
Well, you know what? If you could give us a little explanation of Crisis, I'm not the Arrowverse. I've tried to follow it. It's so much to watch that I don't have the time to invest in keeping apprised of all of that. If you could explain the Crisis on Infinite Earths for our listeners, please.
So really quickly, the Flash using Speed Force, he breaks reality, like the timelines of different
Mm-hmm.
realities, and he goes so fast, and he accidentally jumps realities over and over again. And this is something to do with Speed Force in the DC comics, where different Flashes have caused the issues. Like a future Flash comes back through time in a different reality to save this reality. Like it's been used as a great or not so great, depending on who's writing, way of resetting the DC universe. The DC universe keeps getting reset so many times. People stop, like, caring
Yeah.
because they've used it, like, too much, because they use the Flash, and they use the it's just a hand wave. Think of it that way. Like,
Yeah,
if
it's a
you use Speed
MacGuffin. It's
Force,
like, oh, we're just
yeah,
gonna fix it. The Flash is gonna,
Speed Force,
yeah, Speed Force,
yeah, yeah, like,
saving the world, another mother effing day. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
it's
got
just
you.
like, oh, these comics aren't selling. Oh shit. Well, let's hit the restart button. And
Uh,
Marvel, I'm trying to think when was the last time Marvel did the reset. I think House of M, which they're using through WandaVision, was the last reset. So, like, Marvel has
that's a
been.
fantastic storyline, and you and I need to bone up on WandaVision and then talk about that.
Sure,
But
yeah.
in the Snyder Cut, the Flash doesn't know what the Speed Force is. There's a scene where he mentions, he's like, yeah, I started like really running faster than I should be able to, and I started getting in touch with something else that might be like alternate dimension, and I'm calling it the Speed Force because I don't know what the like. It's like his first realization that maybe he's tapping into something beyond just being fast, which I thought was pretty cool.
One of the things that surprised me is that in the Whedon cut, Flash was throwaway. Like, the actor wasn't given enough chances. It was not well done, not well
Mm-hmm.
received. But everyone now with the Snyder cut is saying that no, no, no. One of the big criticisms of the Whedon cut was that Flash was wasted and was not well used, and the actor didn't come off very well. Whereas with the Snyder cut, everyone's saying the opposite. The Flash is a
Yeah,
good character. The
I
character,
mean, he was the comic relief in Dawn of Justice, I guess. Right? Is that what he was in? or even the Whedon cut.
The Whedon cut, yeah, he was the comic relief, and he didn't come off very well, and his career got derailed
Yeah,
between.
I gotta say the funny in the Snyder cut feels organic, like it's part of the scenery. It's not. I'm just being funny because I'm a big name actor and I'm just going to cut the tension with tossing a quip here and there. That's not how he plays it. It's so long. I'm not going to cover it in an hour review. It is worth the watch. I cannot stress enough. It is worth the watch. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. You literally have it compartmentalized so you can watch it at your leisure in sections. So no more excuses about not watching it. Tiral. It's worth the watch. I highly recommend it. I would say it's the movie of the year. It's definitely worth it. We'll see if it loses that title once Kong versus Zilla comes out.
I'm probably not gonna watch it. I just don't care enough to spend 4 hours on
But break
something.
it up. If you break it up, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I don't think I care enough. It just I mean, it's not like I don't have geek credentials. I just, who cares? It's over. It's done.
Nah,
and
it's
and
it's the
and
retcon. It's
there's
not the
so
retcon we
much
wanted. It's the retcon we deserve.
there's so much new stuff to
I need
watch.
to know. I need to note that down. That's got to go on the thumbnail.
I mean, that's the title. You just found the title.
Yeah.
I would much rather use that time to watch Doom Patrol. There's so much more new stuff to watch. Why would I want to watch something that, all right, I gave it a shot, it sucked. I don't want to see it again. I don't want to put 4 more hours. It's chasing good money after bad.
I think it deserves. I think it deserves the time. It was very much well worth it.
I don't know, man. I just don't. The 4 hours gets to me. Like, it's not. That is not a good use of time as far as I'm concerned. I already gave it. I already gave it a shot. It sucked. I don't want to do it again. Like, it's There's so much new things to support and new shows and new media. I just don't get it. I really feel if it was a mini series and if it was like something where, like, I could see, but the movies after Justice League, they weren't that good either. I mean, the Wonder Woman movie, the Wonder Woman 1984. I know you liked it, but almost everybody else didn't. I didn't like it. Like, I'm tired of giving DC my time and money. I don't want to do it. Like, it's got to be a home run. It's got to be new. It's got to be unexpected for me to give it any time. Like, are you gonna give the next Suicide Squad movie time, or like,
Sure.
or
Yeah, I'll
uh,
watch it. I'll watch the next one
the,
because they're gonna retcon that too.
they're gonna, yeah, like, if they give great reviews, if it comes off with fantastic reviews, I might, but I'm not even sure. Like, another Harley Quinn movie, like, I don't really care. Another Batman movie, like, like, there is something called, like, fatigue with these movies. In Marvel too, like, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Thank God it's really good. WandaVision. Thank God it's really good. Marvel. I'll say this: Marvel has recognized that they can't keep doing what they've been doing. They can't keep using the same formula. They have to bring something new, like new flavor to the mix,
Yeah.
because people are fatigued. Like, they've seen it
Yeah, like
before.
Star Wars fatigue. Like nobody wants another Star Wars movie, especially after how horrifically bad the sequel trilogy was.
Yeah, yeah. Like, just make good shows, make good Mandalorian shows. We don't need another Star Wars movie for everything to get messed up again. I don't. There's we gotta incentivize Hollywood to be creative, and I don't think supporting this movie is doing that. I think it's just
All right.
like,
Well, on that note,
yep,
I think we beat it up.
yes, yes. No, great review, man. Thanks for taking
Oh,
notes
you
and
know
all
what?
that.
One last note. There is a very, very deep dive hint to Killing Joke. So there might be a Killing Joke movie coming out. You know what? I'll just, whatever. I give them the spoiler warning. So in the scene in the epilogue where at first I was like, WTF is happening because they eventually win. They get their asses kicked, and it's not an easy win by no means. In the post-apocalyptic alternate reality where the heroes fail, and Joker for some reason is helping the heroes out, which is funny because they got him dressed in a SWAT police uniform, which I think is a callback to one of the Heath Ledger Jokers, where he dresses up as a cop to escape and he puts the helmet on, right? He's looking at Batman. And by the way, even though it's Jared Leto for like 5 minutes, like that's all you get of the Joker, fucking awesome. And I think I could say that now because we're over an hour and change in.
Yeah.
He looks at Batman and he says, you shouldn't send a boy wonder to do a man's job. And I was like, oh, man, Killing Joke. Killing Joke. Are they going to do it? That'd be sick if they did the Killing Joke movie. Oh, my God. All right. On that note, folks, thank you very much for joining us on this rambling review.
Thanks a lot.
The Snyder Cut. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it inspires you to watch it despite Tiral's misgivings and very sensible commentary on investing 4 hours. Hopefully we see you all again next time. Thanks for listening. Everybody be safe out there.
Have a good one.